So following from government, I'm going to go on to NPO governance. Is this a big issue? I know that many donors are concerned about money disappearing, fake NGOs, and corruption in the sector. The publication of King 3 presented the non-profit sector with a number of challenges, as it was written for the corporate sector, which is based on different values and functions differently. Perhaps the most obvious difference between the two sectors is that the corporate sector exists to achieve the maximum amount of profit possible. And again, when I attended the social return on investment discussion yesterday, in the end, I kept hearing people say, money is everything. Whereas the non-profit sector, by definition, has to channel any resources it generates towards the benefit of the organization and the work that it does. But there are other differences too. Directors of an NPO freely and voluntarily give of their time to fulfill an altruistic purpose. In the corporate sector, directors do not freely give of their time. They expect the highest possible remuneration for their investment. And as well illustrated all over the world, South Africa being no exception, such remuneration is sometimes astronomical in its largesse. King 3 focused on the New Companies Act, but the majority of NPOs are trust and voluntary associations. They have their own body of law, including aspects of common law as well as guidance from international principle and practice, especially taking into account the degree of funding of South African organizations from abroad. Especially though, we felt that the requirements of King 3 were too overwhelming for the capacity of most civil society organizations. This did not mean they were incompetent. An article in the Financial Mail on the 14th of October 2011 entitled "Strangled by Rules" explained that local companies were overwhelmed by the requirements of King 3 and that government's issues were crowding out all other items on agendas. So, in essence, King 3 served as a catalyst, forcing the non-profit sector to look inward at its own governance practices. This is particularly pertinent considering the work NPOs do. Very often this involves the provision of public services, the building of schools, for example, providing emergency access to medicine and natural disasters. Governance of any organization and its funding are critical to donor and beneficiary confidence. There was therefore an urgent need for the South African non-profit sector to explore the development of a good code of governance or a charter that spoke to the specific governance and risk management needs of NPOs. Such a code needed to be aware of the multi-layered and multi-textured nature of non-profits, and it needed to serve as a way of building confidence in the sector. Following a 2-year consultative process with hundreds of non-profits, a working group produced the Independent Code of Governance for Non-Profit Organizations in South Africa. This can be found on the website www.governance.org.za, and organizations can subscribe to the code through the website. Donors can then measure their governance performance against this commitment. And over the next 3 years, we will be promoting this code across the country to ensure it is currency and can stand as a key governance document for the sector. It's available at the Inyatelo stand outside. The code does not purport to be a comprehensive statement of the law, and it acknowledges the existence of other codes such as King 3. It is basically a statement of values, principles, and recommendations.